Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back into the Back to 12 podcast here on the Back to 12 podcast channel on YouTube. You know that man. I mean, you know him. He doesn't need an introduction. I say that every week. But Lyle, we're going to introduce you anyway. It's just how this is going to go. He's Lyle. I'm RC. And Lyle, the best part about this podcast today is this is the last podcast, my friend, that we talk about where Texas Tech is not playing football. Like, this is the last one. The next podcast we have, we're going to get to review the game, talk about Texas Tech and what they actually did on the field. But before we get started, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, like we always say, man, blessed to be in your presence. I know Saturday I got my tickets, my T-shirt, Zane P, if you're listening out there, man, I need to renew new T-shirt when I get there, man. I put on some muscle mass, so I'm gonna need a new T-shirt. But
Slight flex, slight flex.
Yeah, just been hitting the weights hard, going reminiscing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to get it going. Like I said, I'll be there live, and I'm excited for Tech football, of course, but I'm just excited for football to be back in general. I know we got I think it's all weekend full of football. So
5 days in a row.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
And we'll talk about every Big 12 game on today's podcast. I'll at least give you my bets for every Big 12 game. One of them, Lyle, may be the biggest lock of the entire season. Like, I'm not saying I would bet a mortgage payment on it, but I might if I'm comfortable with it.
Right.
But before we get into the preview for Murray State and Texas Tech, the official start of the Joey McGuire era, be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe. You helped us get to 500. We're very thankful for that. As the time of this recording, we're at 519. Can we get to 600 before kickoff? I think we can do it. I think we could do it. I think we can. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow Lyle on Twitter. Lyle, what's that at on Twitter?
Hey, Coach LLEONG. Follow your boy.
There you go. And you can follow me on Twitter at RCMB323. And I will be doing my post-game Twitter spaces again this year. So that'll be a lot of fun, getting to interact with the people and really getting to hear that firsthand experience from Texas Tech fans just right out of the gate after hopefully a lot of wins, but we shall see. Let's jump right into this though, man. Like, Murray State, FCS team, technically not D1. They're picked third in the Ohio Valley Conference in their preseason poll. They have 7 players named to the Ohio Valley Conference preseason team. But I think a lot of people will remember them, Lyle, from last year where they played Cincinnati pretty tough for a while. Obviously, Cincinnati ended up winning that game and ended up in the college football playoff. But Murray State played them pretty tough. Now, they do have a new quarterback this season, and we'll get into it. But when you look at it from a Texas Tech standpoint and an FCS team is coming in, you've gone through this. You've had it to where you played at Texas Tech for one coach and then a new coach came in, right? Like, you've had that happen. What are these players thinking going into a new era of Texas Tech football on Saturday against Murray State, where it may not be, the game next weekend against Houston, right? That's going to be a ranked opponent, presumably, right? If they beat UTSA. But what's your mindset going in, new coach, first game of the season, maybe not a D1 opponent or a D1 opponent, but maybe not an FBS opponent. What's your mindset as a player going into game number 1 in this situation?
I think it's just overall not trying to do too much, not taking these guys lightly. I think sometimes when you kind of look at the team and look at their previous record and look where their where their division is, sometimes you get you kind of see and you're like, oh man, they may not be that good. You got a big game in Houston coming up that next week. So I think sometimes it's easy to overlook these guys and just be like, hey man, this is one of those games we should win. And those, it's just trying to stay focused, because you got to think about it on the flip side for those guys. If they come in here and win, that's huge. They have nothing to lose. They're coming in here just to give their best shot, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some trick plays. This is big for these guys. For those that don't know, we pay teams like this to come here and beat up on them a little bit.
Do.
And so they have nothing to lose. They get paid. They get to take their shot at beating the team. If they win, then they did something spectacular. If they lose, they're supposed to lose. So I think the mindset of those guys coming in they have it out there to say, hey, man, we got nothing to lose. This is my chance to show I should be in your shoes and you should be where I'm at. So I think it's one of those things. Those other guys have a lot more to prove than our guys. But it's the first game, and those guys just got to stay focused. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think we'll handle them, but I think it'll be a good game. I think the first couple of series is going to take those guys to kind of get adjusted to the new system. For those new guys out there, the first time you step out on that field and get first game day, it's going to be 60,000+. So it's going to take a second for you to kind of take a deep breath and realize that first play, you'll be like, dang, it's a lot of people. By play 5, you don't hear
You're not in the
anybody.
FTF anymore, man. You're not in the
Yeah.
FTF.
Yeah, so you can't find your mama at these games. So I think it's just, it's going to take those guys time to adjust. And those other guys, man, they're going to come with their best shot. So it should be good, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting to see just from a standpoint of how fast does Texas Tech get out of the gate, right? I think from a FCS standpoint, Murray State's actually a pretty solid team. Again, they're not favored to win the Ohio Valley Conference, but when you look at it from the FCS level, the Ohio Valley Conference is a pretty good one. Got some really good teams out there. Now, they do have 7 players, as I mentioned, named to the Ohio Valley Conference preseason team. Some of those players include, they're really young, Lyle. That's the thing that stood out to me. Now, obviously, COVID has changed some of that, and some of these guys that I'm going to mention aren't even impacted by the COVID rule, but some of them are. Like the guys that stand out to me, these are the 3 players I think every Texas Tech fan should know going into this game for the Racers. DeMonte Weatherspoon, who's a redshirt sophomore, their running back. He actually led the Racers last season with 912 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. That's a good season at any level. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And then they have a linebacker. This is the Mike linebacker, the guy I'm going to compare him to on the Texas Tech side so fans can have a comparison. He's their Kershaw Merriweather. That's who this guy is. Eric Samata, he's a redshirt freshman linebacker. He led the Racers last year with 77 total tackles on the season, with 4 being for loss. And now the biggest adjustment for any team in college football, and I'm sure you would agree with me on this, is when your program switches from one quarterback to another quarterback the next season, that is a monumental adjustment. Even if that quarterback has been in the system, it's still different, right? That's what's happening for the Racers this year with DJ Williams. He had a little bit of run last year, the redshirt sophomore quarterback. He finished with just over 1,000 yards passing and 3 touchdowns through the air, but he also ran for 532 yards and averaged 6.4 yards per carry, which is relatively solid for a quarterback. Their yards per carry are always going to be a little bit higher just because it's not a designed run. But he had 6 touchdowns on the ground as well. He was actually named the Conference Freshman of the Year last year. And he is solely the guy now for the Racers. So again, that's DeMonte Witherspoon, Eric Samata, and DJ Williams. The quarterback running back combination is something to watch for the Racers. And then that middle linebacker. And it feels like at these smaller schools, right, you always got to pay attention to these athletic quarterbacks, right? Because they can make the flashy play, but there's also those quarterbacks. And I think DJ Williams, from the limited play I've seen, it was literally a minute clip on YouTube. I don't want to act like I've seen this guy play forever. It was a minute. It just seems like he can just kind of like muck things up, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, oh, you think you have him contained, and instead of, negative, a tackle for loss for -6 yards, they still end up getting 2, which actually goes a long way in terms of the psychological aspect of the offense, right? So those are kind of the players that I'm looking for in this. I do think Texas Tech handles business. As you mentioned, though, I'm very interested to see how those guys react early. Because, listen, I'm not like you. The most people I've ever played a football game in front of, Lyle, is maybe 2,000. Maybe. I can't imagine what it's like playing in 30 times that at a night game. And your head coach, this is the first game that he's there. Your offensive coordinator returns to his roots where his dad is an absolute legend. He obviously came in and helped Cliff Kingsbury with Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's so many storylines to this. And it feels like one of those games where my mindset is this. In previous regimes, I 100% expect Texas Tech to come out slow. Like, just lay an egg, but they figure it out in the end and they win, right? With this regime, I think Texas Tech comes out, and I would not be surprised if Zach Kittley on the second or third play of the game says, Tyler Shuck, hey, let's go play action, and you chunk it deep. Just try and hit these guys in the jugular right away. What do you think these, maybe not the scripted plays, right, for Zach Kittley, but what do you think the offense does look like early in terms of, hey, are they going to try and get this offensive line comfortable? Because let's face it, that's probably the biggest question mark on this team, outside of maybe depth at other positions. What do you think Zach Kittley does? I mean, you know him very well. So what do you think his path to, okay, this is what I'm thinking to get against this FCS team? Tyler Shuck obviously has the experience. Do I want to get a deep ball early, or do I just want to get him in a rhythm and maybe do those nickel and dime passes just to get a couple first downs and get everybody's feet under them?
I think I think Kit's gonna, of course, take what the defense gives him. I mean, that's what makes him so good. He's gonna find your weak spots. He's gonna find where you may overload, where you have a guy that can't handle a guy over there. He's gonna find that. So I think he's gonna do what he does. He's always gonna do his offense, whether we're playing University of Alabama or we're playing Murray State. I think he's gonna do his offense. And me personally, I think the difference is we have bigger guys. That's the difference. For those that don't know at home, that's the difference between FCS and FBS is the lineman. Like I said, my offensive coordinator works here. He's 6'6", 330, and he was the smallest person on our own line. So that puts in perspective.
Small dude.
Yeah,
he's a small guy.
are. So yeah,
Yeah,
he's tiny.
just a compact car kind of guy.
Yeah, and he drives one too. Bless his heart. But those guys, I think it's going to depend on. I think he'll take some shots, of course, but I think we'll be able to run the ball because, like I said, our linemen are 6'7", 6'6", and so I don't think their D line are going to be huge. They're going to be good sized guys, but I think that we're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of stuff. So I don't know how much of the deep balls we'll see. I'm definitely think he'll throw a couple, but I think he'll take what they're giving us, and I think we'll be able to run the ball as we want to. I believe that we'll be able to throw the ball as we want to. But like I said, people got to understand too, like this is this is my second year being a head coach. Coming in the first year, it's hard to get everybody on the same page and doing the same thing and getting everybody to think the way you want to think and doing your system how it's supposed to be done. So I think everybody's got to be patient. When we come out, I think we're gonna do good. But like I said, people got to understand. We come at the end of the day. Man, I thought we was gonna put up 60. Mike Leach didn't come here on the first day and put up 60 points. So it takes time. He scored points, but it takes time to get his guys, the people that he wants in here. So everyone's got to realize too, he's taking over guys that he did not recruit. He got a couple guys in here that he's recruited, but this is not his class. And so I never really understood that till Tuberville took over. And I realized like stuff he wanted to do, he couldn't because we weren't his guys. So he had to kind of find a way for that 1 year until he could get the guys that he wanted to do what he wanted to do. So I think everybody's got to understand and give Kid a chance. And expectations are high. I promise you, Kid has the same expectations for himself. But as fans, we got to be realistic and let them work and let them work their system and go. So I think we handle business, but I just hope everybody understands it. It's going to take a minute for us to click. And, is this a true test? Yes, but it's not a true test. But we're still capable of not winning the game. Next week when we play Houston, that's a test. And it'll just continue to get harder and harder as the season goes. So I think it's a great opening game for us. What you got for me?
Who do you think steps out on the outside, wide receiver wise? Like who's the guy? Like you've been to a few practices, right? So who's the guy when you go and watch practice? And I'm sure you're watching the wide receivers in the offense. Who's the guy where you're just like, yeah, he's gonna. If you told me, hey, RC, bet money that this guy breaks out for Texas Tech, and obviously Miles Price, I'm taking him away from you. That's the cheat code answer.
Right.
But one of these guys that hasn't proven themselves at this level to the level that Miles Price has, and he's relatively unknown to a degree as well. But compared to these other guys, he looks like he could be, an All-American in terms of production. Who's the guy at the wide receiver position you think Tyler Shuck looks at and is like, you're my guy outside of Miles Price?
That's a tough one for me. Like I said, this group kind of reminds me of my freshman year when I first got here. It was the year after we, Joe Falani and Jay Hicks and all those guys, those outstanding receivers left. And left, it was like Eddie Britton, me, Crab. Crab's a different breed. It was like Eric Morris, Danny Amendola. So when you go out there and watch, it wasn't really one that stuck out to, if you wouldn't go out there besides Crab, of course, you go out there and say, oh, he's pretty good, or that good's pretty. So I think in a sense, it's not one that I particularly say would stick out. I think it kind of depends on what the defense gives. Because of Kitley's offense, because it's so good, I think anybody has the capability. So it's hard for me in his system to say, hey, that guy is the man. And not to mention, if Kitley wants to get somebody the ball, he'll get them the ball. So I think on that same token too, it's like, hey, who does Kitley want to be the man? I think he's that good that he could get whoever he wants to get the ball to in that sense. So I think they're all capable. Like I said, I'm excited though to see, what Price does as being the man. Because I tell people that all the time. I think the thing at receiver that people fail to realize, there's a lot of people when Crab played that had 800 yards because there was 3 people on Crab, and then when Crab left, those same people didn't have 800 yards when they had to go one-on-one and have to focus on them. So I think I'm anxious to see how he handles it and how other teams view him. I don't know if teams view him in that sense of, hey, that's a guy we got to watch out. I think honestly right now they're all viewed the same, every receiver. I really do believe that. And so, I think after game 1, game 2, we'll kind of see who makes some plays, who Kitley feels that guy can take over a game and he'll get him the ball. So for me, like I said, that's a tough one. And I love that question just because I feel like I was a part of that. And if you came to our practice, I weighed 150 pounds. There's no way you looked out there and said that kid could catch the ball.
That guy's going to do anything.
Or Eric Morris is about 5'5". There's no way that dude out there can go. And I mean, he's a great receiver. Danny, same thing. Danny was a short guy, not the fastest guy. And I mean, he was awesome, played in the league all these years. So it's just hard for me, especially at the receiver position, to judge a book by its cover, man. What about you?
Oh, I'll judge a book by its cover. I'll do it. 100% do
it. Doesn't matter the book, huh?
No. Well, it does. It does matter the book. In this context, I will judge a book by its cover. Give me Duran Bradley. And the main reason is this. Yeah, this is the main reason. Well, there's 2 actually. So with people I've talked to that have gone to camp and everything like that, they say that he's the younger guy that stood out the most to them. And then second, this better than, well, me for sure, and probably a lot of people listening. When your quarterback calls you out and says that you have done X, Y, and Z on a positive note all year through spring ball and fall camp, it probably means he's going to look for you in tough situations. And that's exactly what Tyler Shuck has done with Duran Bradley. So give me Duran Bradley. I think he takes a major leap this year. I think he, maybe this is spicy. I don't really care. I think he puts up Eric Ezekama type numbers from last year where he doesn't get to 1,000 yards. I think that's the only wide receiver on this team that I think can do that is Miles Price. But I think Duran Bradley, I think he gets close to 750, 800 yards.
See, and I think if that's the guy, I think they got a couple more that are, I wouldn't put at his level that can do things that I've seen.
Loic Fungi. I mean, the list goes on, man. Yeah, there's a ton of them.
I think that depends on Miles Price, though. If he gets 1,000 yards, like that's like I said, that I can't state that enough of how, people don't realize when you got the spotlight on you, they will find a way to have, somebody out there with Crab. There's times where there's a backer bumping them, then it's a cornerback, then it's a safety, and people don't see that aspect of it because I mean, a lot of times we're watching the game, we're watching the whole field, and you don't see. Like I've been out there and heard calls where 3 people said 5, 5, 5, and I'm looking like, dang, he's not gonna get the ball, and he still finds a way. So it's just a statement of how good those guys are that have had that spotlight. Even Eric, like last year, they knew who he was, and he still came through and able to do that. And like I said, I have the utmost respect, but it also takes those 3 other guys doing their job. It takes the O-line blocking every time, and it takes the quarterback to make those throws. So, I mean, like that's the beauty of football. It's just it is one person, but especially at the receiver position, it depends on a lot of other people. If you get the ball, it has to go through a lot of other folks before it touches your hands. So I think that, like I said, those 2 can be a duo. I agree with you. I think those 2 could be a great duo, but also think I wouldn't be surprised if one of those other guys that's not even in the starting list right now steps up and we're down the road, like where'd that guy come from? Because I've seen a couple
of shows. Looking at you, Coy.
Yeah.
That's the guy to look for. I don't know if you've heard too much about him. I know you're definitely busy just casually being a head coach and AD and all this kind of stuff. But Corey Aiken, that's the guy to watch. I mean, led the country last year in high school in terms of receiving at Stephenville, lightly recruited because I guess his junior year. And it's so stupid to me that junior year means more than your senior year for a lot of these guys. But it's the truth. And so he had a bad junior year, or not up to his standards, I should say, still relatively good. But when you lead the country in all of high school football and receiving, people are going to take notice. Came to Texas Tech. And when Zach Kitley mentions a true freshman by name in his opening presser for the week going into week 1, I think that says a lot about Corey Aiken. Maybe he's the guy that you're mentioning that steps up out of nowhere that maybe we're not expecting. But let's get to our predictions on this. So Texas Tech is 34-point favorites on this game. The over-under is set at 55. You want to go score predictions? You want to go with the bets? How do you want to do this? Because I've got a score prediction and a bets. You can do whichever one you want.
Let's do both. Let me match you up.
Okay. My prediction for score-wise, you said they can't score 60, but they got those cool shirts that say 50 burgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're putting up a 50 burger game 1, 51-17 Texas Tech.
Ooh. I want to believe, because I said I believe in Kitley, we trust. But I'm gonna go 42-14.
Okay, so you say 42-14. I want to make sure we get this right,
Yeah.
That way we can come back and you can talk trash to me when
I
you're
love you though,
right.
man. I want you to get 50. Kid, if you're listening out here, I love you, brother. Get 50.
It's perfect, man. It's just a perfect scenario. You start off with an FCS team who, by the way, is a solid team, but I think you have it's funny because typically against FCS teams, and especially in game 1, you see more than one quarterback. For a lot of programs, there's a significant drop off from QB1 to QB2 and then QB3. There's not much of a drop off for Texas Tech there. And so it's my thought process is this, Tyler Shuck probably gets Texas Tech up 28-7. And they're like, all right, let's get Donovan Smith and Baron Morton some run. And they come in there and have a couple touchdowns each too. That's kind of my thought process.
Yeah. And that, that's why I kind of went with the 42. Just because like I said, I think that's the hardest thing to switch mid-game. We kind of did that with, Leach, Potts, and Sheffield. And like I said, for me, it's a little different. I grew up with Potts, one of my closest buddies. But it's just different for people. They throw different, different timing. So I'm excited to see, but that's why I went with the 42.
Let us know your score predictions down in the comments. Again, yes. I have 51-17, Texas Tech winning. Lyle has 42-14 Tech. Now, we got to jump into our final Big 12 standing predictions before any games kick off. And remember, Big 12 teams play on Thursday in week 1. We got Oklahoma State playing in on Thursday on week 1 against, I believe, Central Michigan. And then you have the Pittsburgh and my goodness, West Virginia. There we go. All right. So
shout out to G Hero.
If you disagree with any of these, Lyle, as we got about 10 minutes left in the podcast here, I'm going to run through mine. You tell me where you want to switch yours on here, and I will keep track on my computer. So at number 10, I have Kansas. I think that's
doubt.
Okay, cool. At number 9, don't hate me, West Virginia.
Me too.
Okay, cool. Awesome. We're on the same path here. Number 8, TCU.
Yes. And I have the paper to show you folks at home.
Okay. Texas Tech at 7. And I will say this, Texas Tech is at 7 for me. I almost put them at 8 because they beat TCU in Fort Worth. So they have the tiebreaker and they're ahead. You don't agree with me there, though?
No, I'm going to go with your dark horse.
You got Kansas State that low, Lyle.
Yes, sir.
The absolute disrespect.
I know. Okay. I know that hurt your soul. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I know that people are just going to roast you in the comments because you're going to have a certain gaudy color way too high. All right, who do you have at number 6?
At the end, they'll be wanting to shake my hand. My bad. Continue on.
Okay, at number 6, I have Iowa State.
I have TTU.
Okay, Texas Tech at number 6. Okay, I think I know where this is going now. All right. So at 6, you have Texas Tech. I have Iowa State. At 5, I have Texas. I'm guessing you have Iowa State.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. Building up on the Decker love. All right. Number 4, I have Kansas State because I respect people, unlike Lyle. Who do you have at number 4?
It hurts my soul to say this, but OU.
Oh, you at 4.
Yes, sir.
Oh my. Oh my. This is wow. Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So at number 3, I have Oklahoma State.
I have the burnt orange.
Okay. Okay. I am very curious to see who you have at 1 and 2 now. So you have Texas at 3. Again, I had Texas at 5. You believe in that dark horse. Good for you. Hey, stay with your convictions.
Hey,
I'm about
let
it.
me clarify. Let me clarify. I got a couple buddies out there. Know they're great coaches. I know they're going to do good things. Shout out to Choice, my man Marion.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a little bias in there in terms of just friendships. I get it.
Yeah.
At number 2, I have Oklahoma. You have
Baylor Bears.
wow. So you have, and correct me if I'm wrong quickly, but there's only one team left. You have Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 and getting revenge on Baylor after what happened last year.
Yeah, they've been, like I said, I think they lost to Baylor in the years before. It's always comes down most of the time to the Oklahoma State and Oklahoma in the last game, and Oklahoma beats them. I think this year they beat Oklahoma, and that puts them over the edge.
I'm not mad at it, to be honest with you. So I'll run through Lyle's predictions first, and then I'll run through mine. So Lyle, at number 10, you have Kansas. 9, West Virginia. 8, the Horned Frog, that dreaded purple in Fort Worth. 7, the other dreaded purple, but I actually like that purple to win more games. You have them at 7. You have Texas Tech at 6, Iowa State at 5 with Decker at the quarterback now. Lefty up there in Ames. Oklahoma, the shock at 4. Texas at 3. Shame this man in the comments if you just, this is blasphemous, which it is. Baylor at 2, Oklahoma State at 1. Me, on my side, I have Kansas, West Virginia, TCU from 10, 9, and 8. I have the Red Raiders at 7. By the way, I do think they win 6 games and make a bowl game. What's your record prediction for the Red Raiders real quick?
Ooh, what you got them at?
I got 6 and 6.
I'm going to go 7 and 5.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Just Lyle going spicy on a Tuesday recording session. All right. I'm not mad at it. All right. I have Iowa State at 6, Texas at 5, Kansas State at 4, Oklahoma State at 3, and I have Oklahoma and Baylor at 2 and 1, and I have Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears repeating as Big 12 champions because I think Blake Shapen is the absolute real deal at quarterback. He only has 89 career passing attempts, but I think that guy is the next great quarterback in the Big 12. It's going to be interesting to watch, and we'll post these on Twitter too, and I'll be sure to tag Lyle. And let us know here in the comments where you think Texas Tech finishes in the Big 12, what their record is as well. But before we head out of here, Lyle, I got my bets for every Big 12 game this weekend. So we're running through this. Here we go. Texas Tech, I know that I said that I had them winning 51-17. Well, the over is 55. Quick math, didn't go to school for math, but 51 plus 17 is 68. Give me the over on that game. I think Oklahoma State destroys Central Michigan on Thursday and covers the 21. I think Pittsburgh also destroys West Virginia. Sorry, I do. I can't. Sorry. I know you got a little bit of ties there, but no. I think Pittsburgh just blows them out of the water. How about that quarterback matchup, though? JT Daniels and Slovis were both at USC at the same time. Do you know who their offensive coordinator was?
Yeah. G. Harrell.
There we go. I still think Graham Harrell.
Hey, let me say something real quick, though. The Let's Ride thing, I think that's going to cost them some games. I can't lie. But continue on.
It should. It should. I mean, it was terrible.
Terrible.
It was terrible. It was egregious. TCU at Colorado, I think goes over the 54.5. Watch out for Johnson. TCU has the best wide receiver in the Big 12 this year. Mark my words. Oklahoma versus UTEP. I don't know how the over is only at 65.5 or 56.5. That makes no sense to me. I think Oklahoma might score that points by themselves. Texas versus Louisiana Monroe. Give me the over 66.5. Iowa State versus Southeastern Missouri State University. That was a mouthful to say. Shorten your name. Jesus.
Please.
Under on that one, 54.5. I just think Iowa State, Matt Campbell, they're always good defensively. This is the absolute lock I was talking about earlier. I don't know if this is going to stay there, but go get it. You can get it on, I forget what site it was. I'll let you guys know in the description. But Baylor versus Albany in Waco, the over is only at 44. Baylor's going to score 44 points by themselves. Take that and run. I think Kansas State covers their game against South Dakota University, where they're favored by 25 points. Take the over on that. And I think Kansas versus Tennessee Tech goes over the 54. Any that you disagree with right there?
Think you're right on the money. If you want to get rich.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. That means a 3-7 week is incoming. But hey, I'm going to keep track of it all year long. I actually made a Google Sheets today to see what my record is at the end of the year, to see if I was actually good at this or not, which, hey, I'm just shooting for 50-50 because that means you're a good gambler if you win 50% of the time. But let us know what your favorite bets are. If you're even betting on college football this year, let us know down in the comments. And before we head out of here, one more time, Lyle, what is that Twitter handle, my guy?
Hey, it's Coach LLEONG.
There we go. Mine is at RCMB323. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and help us get to 600 subscribers before kickoff. The Joey McGuire era is right around the corner. You can actually count down the hours now. And Jack Kitley, Tyler Shuck, everybody's excited. The let's go. It's that time. The pump jack mentality is back at Texas Tech. He's Lyle. I'm RC. Appreciate y'all listening to the Back to 12 podcast. Lyle, what you got before we head out?
Hey, real quick before we go, man. Next week, man, we got a really, really special guest.
Oh,
all right. And then secondly, man, I'll be at the game. I'll be down live trying to get some interviews. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna post it. Try to, holler at Kid after the game, maybe before the game, see how he's feeling. And guns up.
Best in the business right there. That's what we call professional tease. He's Lyle. I'm RC. You know what to do. Hit that big red button to stay in the know on Texas Tech athletics all year long right here on the Back to 12 podcast. You know what it is. Channel.